Welcome back to another episode of the Simone NBA Show. I'm recording right now on Wednesday, September 21st, in the thick of the NBA offseason, although we are less than a month away from NBA action. Training camps are opening up soon. Preseason is going to start. We're this close to getting basketball back, but for now, we're still in the offseason. But we do have some news to discuss. It's just me, no guests this week. I believe we'll have one for you guys next week, so stay tuned for that. I won't spoil it, but it should be a good podcast. But I want to talk about a few different topics today. We'll start with some talk about Robert Sarver and the Suns. He just decided today, as I'm recording this, to sell the team, with some caveats that I do want to talk about. Also want to discuss injuries to Robert Williams and Lonzo Ball, Jae Crowder trade options, and then some new news about Russell Westbrook, because we obviously haven't had enough of that this offseason. So let's just get right into it. I don't believe I've had the chance to talk on here about Robert Sarver and the Suns since the investigation from the NBA, concluded. In the end, he was suspended for 1 year and fined $10 million, but there was obviously a ton of backlash for the punishment being too light. A lot of NBA players, LeBron James being one, Chris Paul, who is a member of the Phoenix Suns, spoke out against it. Draymond Green more recently talked about it, talking about how lax the punishment was and comparing it to other things around the league, and I think it was kind of inexcusable. Obviously, the NBA is in a somewhat of a tough position because they have these maximum limits set, and there's no, proof, and if it was taken to court, there'd be hearsay and all of this stuff, but based on what Robert Sarver did and multiple accounts from multiple people who, recounted the same stories of him saying these horrible things. A 1 year suspension and a $10 million fine, which $10 million is a lot of money, but for a guy like Sarver, obviously it's like, you could argue it's a drop in the bucket. It's not enough, and having him in the league in general is just a bad look. And this is a little comparison to nothing in the NBA, but it makes sense for the context. There's a streamer out there, his name's Ludwig, and he was talking about a situation going on Twitch, which is a live streaming service, and there were issues, and one member was asked to leave the community, and he said something along the lines of, you can leave this one community because there's more communities out there, and if you leaving the community makes everybody else in that space feel safer, then you need to do that because that's what's fair. Robert Sarver being in the NBA is just a bad look. After all the things he said, after all the things he's done, him being the owner of a team in the NBA, it's just a bad look. You can't have him coexisting in the same space with these players, especially when you have players speaking out against him, when you have PayPal, the sponsor of the Suns, threatening to pull out, having this backlash. You just can't have him in the same space as these people. So in the end, Robert Sarver did decide to sell the Suns and the Mercury, the WNBA team in Phoenix, which he also owned, but it wasn't the NBA's decision. He came out and said he was going to sell it himself, and then Adam Silver kind of piggybacked, and he said, yeah, that's good, but this comes after Adam Silver at the press conference where they announced Sarver's suspension and fine, said something along I think it was Howard Beck who asked the question of, why this punishment, like why does it seem a little bit too relaxed, and essentially Adam Silver said, paraphrasing here, that owners are held to a different standard than players and coaches and personnel, which it's awful. If anything, they should be held to a higher standard because they're the face of an organization. They're making all the decisions in the league as a whole. Like, you talk about these 30 owners, these 30 ownership groups, I should say, run the league. Adam Silver is the commissioner. He keeps everything organized, but the 30 owners run the NBA. So having this owner in place in this community is just not a good look. And Adam Silver saying that is an even worse look, and you have to imagine he would have been better prepared to answer these questions, but he kind of just crumbled. Adam Silver didn't handle it well, and as soon as Robert Sarver announced that he'd be selling the team, Adam Silver put out a statement saying, I fully support the decision by Robert Sarver to sell the Phoenix and Mercury. This is the right next step for the organization and community. If it's the right next step, Adam Silver, then why did he not get banned? Like, why was he not, thrusted out of the NBA by the NBA? And again, it's not completely Adam Silver's decision. The owners get votes and stuff, but it's just a bad look to kind of double back on something you already said. But the real interesting, I don't want to say interesting because that makes it sound like anything, could be good, but it's a completely negative thing. Robert Sarver's statement, essentially saying that he's going to sell the Sun and the Mercury, was awful. It was utter garbage. I'll read it here. This is what Robert Sarver said in his statement. As a man of faith, I believe in atonement and the path to forgiveness. I expected that I expected that the commissioner's 1-year suspension would provide the time for me to focus, make amends, and remove my personal controversy from the teams that I and so many fans love. But in our current unforgiving climate, it has become painfully clear that this is no longer possible, that whatever good I have done or could still do is outweighed by the things I have said in the past. For those reasons, I am beginning the process of seeking buyers for the Suns and Mercury. Just utter garbage. If you didn't have proof that Robert Sarver was a bad person and just a garbage human being, there's your proof right there, right? And sure, you could do good things, and sure, maybe you've changed, but the fact that you're not willing to accept the wrong you've done, and even like he's basically just saying, yeah, what I did was bad, but it's over now. Like that's garbage. That's just an absolute trash statement. And the fact that Adam Silver said in his press conference that Robert Sarver showed remorse, and then he comes out with this, just proves that he didn't. There's no remorse in this statement. It's not him saying, I understand the bad that I did, and I understand that I need to change, and for those reasons, I'm looking to do this. It's because everyone is so mad at me, I guess I'm just going to sell the He's like trying to host a pity party for himself. It's just a sad and a terrible look for him and the NBA as a whole, because it proves that he wasn't remorseful for what he did. And this statement shows a complete lack of remorse, if anything, right? There's comments everywhere saying, about him crying because he was canceled and stuff. And cancel culture is whatever. And nowadays you can have your opinions on it, but for what we know Robert Sarver said, and for what the NBA very clearly, they suspended him for a year and fined him. So there was some level of proof and, recollection that he said these horrible things to players, to coaches, and did these things behind the scenes and acted inappropriately. To have that level of racism and sexism come out from an owner, and then say he's shown remorse, and then have the owner eventually be pressured to sell the team, and then essentially in a statement admit that he shows no remorse and he's just doing it because he's being canceled. It's just a complete crapshoot from the side of the NBA and for the Suns and for Adam Silver. Robert Sarver made it very clear. He's only selling the team because people are mad at him. He's not sorry, and he says, make amends and remove my personal controversy, time for me to focus on forgiveness and being sorry. But in our current unforgiving climate, it's been like a month or however many months since the allegations came out, and since the ruling of the investigation came out, it's been a week? And you're saying I expected to have a year to atone for this. If you're expecting time for that and then blaming cancel culture for the reason that you're selling the team, it was never going to work. You were never going to get forgiveness. You were never going to actually search for it. You were just going to hope you would go away for a year and then come back and everything would be brushed under the rug. So good, that he's selling the team, but he should not have any credit for selling the team. He should be, wiped from the NBA history books, because this clearly shows that he doesn't care about what he did. And he's saying, I thought I would have a year to say sorry. If you're trying to base your apology on a certain timeline for when you'll be able to be back in running this billion-dollar franchise, you're never going to be sorry. And you're missing the entire point. So it just completely defeats the purpose. So glad he's gone, but crazy way to end his reign in Phoenix, or whatever you want to call it. Moving on to the next set of news, Robert Williams set to miss 4 to 6 weeks because he will be undergoing arthroscopic knee surgery, first reported by our very own Sean Devaney of Heavy Sports, and then followed up by a report from Woj. Unfortunate that the Celtics are going to be missing Robert Williams for even longer. After he dealt with a meniscus tear ahead of the playoffs last year at the end of March, I believe it was. He kind of came back super early. He had the surgery option where he would be able to come back earlier, but he very clearly wasn't himself in the playoffs. Missed the first 2 games of the Brooklyn series, and then he missed, I think, another game scattered in there. But you could tell that he just wasn't himself. He played almost 30 minutes in the regular season, and in the playoffs, that number dipped to around 23. He just wasn't his normal explosive self, which the Celtics need. So it's good that he's having the surgery now. I'd rather have him miss games in October than April, but it does stink for the Celtics because now their front court depth is kind of in shambles, right? They signed Danilo Gallinari to help with that, add some shooting, add some depth at the front court position, but he tore his ACL while playing for Team Italy at Eurobasket, so he will be out for probably the entire season. And although Robert Williams is only probably going to miss at most the first 2 weeks of the regular season, 4 weeks from when the surgery was announced, is the start of the regular season, is the 18th opening night for the Celtics, so there's a slight chance he could be back, but Celtics probably won't want to rush him back this early on in the year. So expect him to be back at some point in the first 2 weeks of the NBA season, which isn't the end of the world. They can get by with what they have, but we do have some options being reported by various sources in the Celtic sphere. We have Jay King of The Athletic reporting that the Celtics aren't interested in any of these veteran big name, big men that are on the market. I'm talking Dwight Howard, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMarcus Cousins, Hassan Whiteside. All those guys are off the table. We kind of heard about this a couple weeks ago when Brian Robb of Mass Live reported that Celtics are not interested in, Carmelo Anthony. And it falls in line with their training camp plan. They want to bring on younger guys like Noah Vonleh, like Denzel Valentine, like Bruno Caboclo, who they actually just waived. They want to bring in these younger group of people that can potentially help earn their spot, or could potentially earn their spot on the roster rather than aging veterans, as we haven't really, we've kind of seen that isn't the play. That's not really, a valid strategy anymore. We saw that with the Nets. We saw that with the Lakers. So they're going young. Bobby Manning of CLNS Media doing some more original reporting. Celtics are signing 22-year-old big man Lucas Samanic, who last played for the Spurs. After waiving Bruno Caboclo. So they are starting to bring in some big men, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because losing Robert Williams is big. It kind of thins out their center position at the very least, and they're going to have to rely on some internal options. Check out the Celtics Collective podcast. I'm sure they're going to be talking about this more in depth, but I'm just here to go over the latest news. So internal options on the Celtics, though, they do have some guys they could depend on. Luke Cornett being the obvious one. He was going to have a larger role anyways because the Celtics lost Daniel Tice in the trade for Brogdon, but now that role is probably expanding. Cornett's not great. He's not a backup big man, but for 2 weeks in the regular season, he's fine, right? He's not going to be the end of the world. I wrote about it a little for Celtics blog. He's actually an underrated defender on the inside. If you look at his numbers for the last 2 years, he defends opponents in the paint and in the restricted area better than Robert Williams and Al Horford did last year. So his numbers are in line with that. And obviously it's very different. You can't really compare the two because of the difference in volume and the quality of opponents they face. But the point is, Cornet's a passable defender on the inside, and he's probably a little underrated at this point. He's not a great shooter, but he's a capable shooter. There's a big difference there. He's not going to be this stretch big man that the Celtics utilize and post up at the 3-point line, but he's a capable outside shooter, which is something Robert Williams didn't bring. So that's a new look to their offense, I guess, if you want to put a positive spin on it. And if anything, Myles Turner is regarded as the best shooting big man in the league, but Luke Cornett's career 3-point percentage is just 2.5% less than Turner's. So let's be a little realistic here. Grant Williams is going to have to take a big step up in the center rotation. He played a lot of center his rookie year, especially in the playoffs against the Raptors and the Heat. And he kind of slimmed down last year, so he wouldn't have to do that as much, and so he could be quicker on the perimeter, but he's going to have to play some center. He guarded Giannis really well in the playoffs. He's guarded Embiid well during the regular season. He guarded Jokic well. He's called Batman now because he stopped the Joker, so he can obviously guard the bigger guys in the regular season. So he's probably going to actually play a lot of backup center for the Celtics. And if he can contend with Embiid and Jokic, he'll probably be fine against some of the backup centers around the league. So there's that. They have that option. And then Sam Hauser will probably in turn step up in the rotation. He's not going to play any center minutes, but if Grant is playing the center, Cornette's playing the center, you're going to need guys to step in and fill that power forward role, and he'll probably be there. Jason Tatum can guard power forwards, and Sam Hauser can kind of stay around the perimeter and light switching on defense, but if all you need Sam Hauser to do on offense is shoot the 3-ball in the corner like Grant Williams did last year, he can definitely do that. So they have options. It sucks that they're going to be without Robert Williams, but they are going to have some internal big man options. And then there's Noah Vonleh, who they could bring in from a training camp deal. He's on an Exhibit 9 with the Celtics right now. There's Mfiondu Kabengele, who's on a 2-way contract, and then obviously Samanic and whoever else they bring in to training camp could earn a spot on the roster too. So they're going to have options. None are great, but they can deal with the options they have for 2 weeks while Rob is out, and hopefully it's just 2 weeks because we don't really know past that, and it would be unfortunate if he misses more time. But the other injury Excuse me. Other injury is to Lonzo Ball. I saw a tweet somewhere. I wish I bookmarked it so I could credit them, but saying that knee doctors were on vacation this offseason because Lonzo Ball is also going to be having a knee surgery. And the whole talk this entire offseason was, oh, will Lonzo Ball be healthy? I heard conflicting reports saying that, oh, he's going to maybe not be ready for training camp. And he was out for the second half of last season, so that's like, okay, what's taking so long for him to get this right? Jamal Collier and Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams, everyone was tweeting the news. Lonzo Ball will undergo an arthroscopic debridement of his left knee on Wednesday. The Bulls announced he'll be reevaluated in 4 to 6 weeks. Sounds very similar to the procedure, Robert Williams is going to have done. But the difference is the Bulls are kind of set to, what's the word? They have better depth at the guard position than the Celtics have at the center position, so they're better equipped to deal with the injury. Obviously, having Lonzo Ball is the key to the Bulls doing well. He is kind of the missing piece in that offense. His defense is crucial, his playmaking is crucial, his three-point shot is crucial, but they have enough pieces to get by. This makes the Goran Dragic signing look a whole lot better now, and you gotta wonder, did the Bulls know that Lonzo Ball was going to need surgery? Did they know he might not be ready? Did they know they were going to need an extra guard in the rotation in Goran Dragic to kind of hold things over until Lonzo got back? So question marks there if there was things they didn't really release to the public about Lonzo's injury when they signed Goran Dragic, because I was a bit confused when they signed Dragic at the time, because they have obviously Lonzo, they have Alex Caruso, they have Ayo Dosunmu, they still have Kobe White, they had a ton of guards, and then they signed an aging veteran in Goran Dragic. But now that Lonzo is set to miss some time, it makes a little bit more sense. So it makes you wonder whether they knew something was going to happen. But Caruso can step into the starting lineup pretty seamlessly. He's obviously not as good as Lonzo, but he plays a similar role. He's a good defender. He can play make. He can shoot. He can defend. He's athletic as all hell. So it'll be fun to watch. So I assume they'll run out a starting lineup something like Caruso, Levine, DeRozan, Patrick Williams, Nikola Vucevic to start the season, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. And their bench unit will still look good because they have Ayo Dosunmu. They have Kobe White. They have Goran Dragic. If anything, this would be a good opportunity for Kobe White. You've heard all the trade rumors throughout the offseason, and at the very least, this is an opportunity for him to rehab his value a little bit, play well while Lonzo's out, so they have a better trade chip down the line, and for Kobe White, earn better opportunities. He's going to need a contract extension pretty soon, and if he plays well while Lonzo is out, even if the Bulls aren't willing to give him that money because they have guard depth, somebody else will. This is his chance to earn more minutes in Chicago's rotation, to play better, to give them a better trade chip, to earn more money on the open market. So it'll be good for everybody. And Goran Dragic is there as well as a veteran presence who can play some big time minutes for them with Lonzo out. So they're well equipped to deal with this. It just sucks that they waited so long and they didn't know what was going on with Lonzo, and now he's going to potentially miss some time in the regular season. It's an unfortunate timing, but you'd rather see him miss these games now than later in the season. And if it drags on even past that 4 to 6 weeks, that's when you can start getting really worried again, even though this was probably the worst case scenario as we were talking about Lonzo all offseason. So yeah, knee injury is kind of plaguing the NBA landscape right now, and hopefully Rob Williams and Lonzo Ball can come back better than ever, because the NBA is a better place when we have all the great players playing, and those two are definitely crucial to their team's success this year. Next up, we got some Russell Westbrook talk. I think I should create a logo or some sort of theme music whenever I talk about Russell Westbrook here, because that's kind of been the majority of the content this offseason. Everybody's talking about Russell Westbrook. Where will he go? Who will trade for him? Where could he play? Where would he actually get minutes? And new developments, shocker, in the Russell Westbrook saga. The Indiana Pacers are keeping Myles Turner. And it sounds like the Lakers are probably keeping Russell Westbrook because they don't want to give up those 2 first-round picks, to the Pacers in order to get Turner and Buddy Hield, which I guess, whatever. They don't really want to trade their future for a team they don't think is going to win the title. And would Turner and Buddy Hield put them over the hump to win the championship next to LeBron and AD? Probably not. Probably in a strong Western Conference, they wouldn't be able to get over that hump. But at this point, if I'm LeBron James, I'm questioning the Lakers' commitment to me, to Anthony Davis, to winning, because it doesn't seem like there is one right now. And will Darvin Ham be able to find a role for Russell Westbrook that works? I don't know. It seems iffy. They're committed to him being the starter. They said that. They signed Dennis Schroeder, which is a great addition for them, bringing him back for not $84 million. And they traded for Patrick Beverley, so they have some guard depth, although they plan to play Patrick Beverley is more of a wing, is what the reports are saying, even though he's 6'1". He's scrappy though and can shoot, so I guess you can kind of get away with it. But They don't want to give up the first round picks. Now, I've seen different things from Lakers fans and people on Twitter about the decision to make these moves. One saying, Lakers' plan is clear. They're not willing to trade picks for anything short of making them a real contender. Next year will be the real all-in push. This year, they're just hoping for health and whatever happens, happens. Sure, that is definitely a way to look at it, right? They don't want to trade their picks, and next year they're going to have all this cap space because Russell Westbrook will be off the books and they could look to spend it, and Kyrie Irving could come to town, and next year will be the year that they finally make a push and they look to make something. Sorry, there's a spider in my wall. I'm just going to kill it real quick. Sorry about that. And next year's going to be the push that they finally decide to go for a title again with LeBron and AD. But why? Right? You're wasting a year, another year of LeBron's time. If you look at things in a full perspective, right? You look at things. Let's go look at LeBron James basketball reference. Let's look at his page. He's won a title in LA. That alone is a success. He's found success in LA. He won a championship. His first year was a wash. He got injured a bunch. The young guys weren't working, and he was just waiting for AD. The next year, they won the championship in the bubble. The year after that, LeBron was injured a bunch again, and it was kind of a wash season. And last year, they traded all of their depth that made them successful and that was great when they were on the court for a star, and it didn't work. So what is their plan now? We're not going to trade all of our picks for depth. We're going to wait and try to get a star next year. How does that make any semblance of sense? How is the Lakers' current plan? I understand it from the perspective of not wanting to mortgage the future, not wanting to give up picks that could be valuable down the line for a team that's probably not going to win a championship. But if their plan is to spend those picks next summer, then that's stupid, right? Because we've seen in the NBA lately that star power is necessary, but it is not the end-all be-all. In fact, it is anything but the end-all be-all. Look at the teams that had success last year. You look at the Boston Celtics, the Golden State Warriors. They had stars. They absolutely had stars. Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins is a star at this point. Draymond and Klay are great. Robert Williams was a star in his role. The Mavericks, the Western Conference Finals teams, and the Eastern Conference Finals teams. The Heat had Jimmy Butler. They had Bam Adebayo. The Mavericks obviously had Luka Doncic. But the one thing that's consistent with all those teams is they had amazing depth. They had great depth. The Warriors had great depth of Jordan Poole off the bench, Otto Porter, Gary Payton Jr., Gary Payton II, Celtics, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Derek White, Grant Williams. The Heat, obviously, Kyle Lowry, Victor Oladipo played a role. Tyler Hero was there. Max Strus, Gabe Vincent. The Mavericks, Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber. They traded Kristaps Porzingis for Spencer Dinwiddie. They had Jalen Brunson. Davis Bertans was even there off the bench. Dwight Powell, Reggie Bullock. Both of the teams, or all of the teams in the conference finals, had depth. The Grizzlies had a ton of depth. They were great. The Bucks, they've built a team around stars and depth. And it seems like the Lakers are still hell-bent on getting stars. They want LeBron next to two superstars and then screw the depth. They'll figure it out from there. That doesn't work anymore. So if their plan is to just sign Kyrie next season and that's going to be the fix to their solution, they'll be better, but that doesn't make them a championship team. And I'm not saying a trade for Myles Turner and Buddy Hield does, but I think that would make I think Myles Turner and Buddy Hield would make them better than Kyrie Irving. And maybe that's a hot take, but I value depth more than star power, especially for a team that already has two top 15 players in the NBA. Getting a third top 20 player versus two top 50 players or top whatever you want to say, starting quality players, is just not worth it anymore. And the Lakers, for some reason, aren't grasping that or don't believe in that, which doesn't make any sense to me. So sure, don't trade your 27 and 29 first round picks. I understand that, right? Those picks are going to be valuable down the line. When LeBron leaves, if AD leaves, they're going to be a bad team. In 27 and 29, the Lakers are almost certainly going to be a bad team. So don't trade those picks because you want them, sure. But don't bank on Kyrie Irving being the solution to this problem, because star power is not the solution in the NBA anymore. It's just not. I hope Russell Westbrook figures it out. His wife posted something on Instagram saying, water is $2 in the grocery store, it's $3 at this place, $5 at the ballpark, and $10 in the airport. It's the same product, but location matters. situation matters. And I think that's totally true. I think if you put Russell Westbrook in the right situation again where he can play his game, he will be effective. He might not be the same triple-double machine. He might not be, definitely not going to be an MVP candidate anymore, but he can be effective and he can help a winning team make the playoffs. Maybe not a championship team, but look at what he did with the Wizards, 2 short years ago. Helped them make the playoffs. That Wizards team should not have made the playoffs, but Russell Westbrook went on a rampage at the end of the season. He can still be effective, and I hope the Lakers find that for him, but we'll see. Right now, I don't agree with the Lakers' star power plan next summer, and hopefully that's not their plan and I'm misinterpreting it, but it just seems weird to me. I get not trading the picks, but they should prioritize starting quality depth over stars, and I don't think they're doing that right now. And lastly, I want to talk about Jae Crowder, because obviously that is the end-all, be-all of the NBA offseason. But in all seriousness, the Phoenix Suns are reportedly looking to trade Jae Crowder in tandem with reports saying that Bojan Bogdanovic expects to be traded soon. That kind of seems like the natural fit. It's hard to imagine Crowder ending up anywhere else because the Suns want to improve. They're a championship caliber team still. They have title aspirations. They don't want to downgrade off of Crowder. I suggested something on Twitter for the Celtics trading Gallinari and a minimum contract and picks. That doesn't really make sense now that I think about it again. The Suns want to win now, so trading for Bogdanovic, who would be an improvement at the position, is the logical solution for the Suns. And there isn't really a ton of other offers out there better than that, especially because Bogdanovic is on a 1-year deal, and the Jazz are looking to rebuild anyway, so you could probably throw a couple seconds at them, maybe a first-round pick with Crowder for that. But the real interesting thing comes up when you consider potential buyout candidates for Jae Crowder, because Jae Crowder's not great. He's definitely fallen off a little bit in recent years. His shooting's not what it once was. His defense is still solid, but it's definitely not what it once was. But he can still help contribute. A contending team in a smaller role. And if you look across the league, there are definitely teams that could look to sign Jae Crowder, especially if he's looking at a minimum deal, which he probably would be at this point in his career if he got bought out by the Jazz, which Jazz are already struggling to get under the tax. They need to release players. They can't keep as many players as they have now on the roster. So if they trade for Jae Crowder, I imagine there would be a buyout, because trading for, it'd probably be Crowder and Saric. That would save them. I think that would match Bogdanovic's contract almost exactly. But they also have to get rid of players, so I assume both would be bought out. Both would have a market, but Crowder's would probably be a bit bigger because Saric has been dealing with injuries for the past couple of seasons, so he hasn't been playing a ton. But teams that could potentially look to pick up Crowder, the first one that stands out to me is the Miami Heat. They need a power forward. They didn't replace PJ Tucker. They lost him for nothing, and their power forward position right now looks on the ropes. Jimmy Butler's probably going to have to start there right now. Duncan Robinson maybe even, or maybe they play Bam and Omer Yurtseven at the 4 and the 5, but then that's really not a ton of shooting there. Jae Crowder has a history in Miami. He was there when they went to the finals. He's played well for them in the past. Again, he's not the player he once was, but in terms of a guy who can come in and fill PJ Tucker's shoes a little bit, Jae Crowder's almost the perfect answer. He's not PJ Tucker. He's not as good as PJ Tucker, but he can fill that role for them in the starting lineup, so they won't have to start Duncan Robinson or Jimmy Butler at the 4. So the Heat makes sense as the primary option. If he does get bought out, obviously, they could go to the Suns and say, hey, we'll give you Duncan Robinson, but that's not as good as the Bogdanovic offer, and it would probably cost them different amount too. So I'm talking about buyout candidates now. If Jae Crowder gets traded to the Jazz and bought out, that's the number one. Sixers are another one. I think we heard about them being potentially interested somewhere. That would make a ton of sense just for depth purposes, having another, gritty guy off the bench for wings. The Dallas Mavericks could make sense just to have another defender, have another wing guy on the team could help out. The Raptors maybe could be interested. Any contending team. And then the Celtics obviously are another good one. They don't really have any wing depth at all right now. He's had a history in Boston. He's not the player he once was, but if you talk about a guy who could come in, play 10 to 15 minutes, be a decent locker room presence there, the Celtics are another team I could see potentially being interested in Crowder. That's about it. I'm looking at other teams around the league who could potentially want to sign him. Maybe the Nets look at him. Maybe, a team like the Nuggets could sign him for some extra depth. That'd probably be an okay fit. The Timberwolves, if they're looking for depth. The Pelicans are always looking for veteran help. I'm pretty sure they're interested in Bogdanovic as well. So they could go for him. The Bucks maybe, but really I think the Sixers, the Heat, and the Celtics are probably the top candidate to sign Jae Crowder if he does get bought out. The Mavs up there a little bit too, but mainly Celtics, Heat, Sixers, but the Heat are the team I would really look at in a Jae Crowder potential buy out and sign with another team situation if he does get traded to Utah and bought out. So keep an eye out for that. Just something to monitor. Again, one of these veteran guys who could go to a team and help on the back end, which could be a sneaky good addition this late in the offseason. So keep an eye on that at the very least. And that'll do it for another episode of the Simone NBA Show. Thank you guys again for checking us out. I don't think I did my plugs at the start of the episode, so I forgot about that. I'm your host, Jack Simone. Follow me on Twitter at JackSimoneNBA. I appreciate that. Sponsored by Heavy Sports at Heavy on Sports. Check them out on Twitter as well. And subscribe to the YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can check out all of our links. I always mess that up. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see I always point the wrong way when I look. But follow all of Heavy's links on the side of the screen right now. Thank you guys so much for listening. Have a fun guest for you guys lined up next week, so make sure to check back in a week from now for that episode with a really cool guest. No spoilers, no nothing, but just make sure to tune back in. It'll be worth it. So thank you guys for listening. See you guys next week. Peace out.